Go ahead and get started. Okay, so I'm delighted to welcome everybody to our event, Women and Entertainment, a discussion of gender and diversity issues in film, media, and music production. I'm Melissa Clapper. I'm a history professor here at Rowan University, and I'm also coordinator of the Women's and Gender Studies program. That is one of several co-sponsors of this event. So before we go any further, let me thank all the co-sponsors. That's the Women's and Gender Studies program, the Department of Music, the Department of Radio, Television, and Film, the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, the Rick Edelman College of Creative and Communication, Communication and Creative Arts, sorry about that, and the College of Performing Arts. So we really appreciate the support from many groups across the university in making this panel possible. Thanks to all of you for coming. I want to encourage audience members as the event goes on to put questions into the Q&A. Okay, we'll be monitoring that. And let me just tell you briefly what we're going to do. I'm going to introduce our moderator in just a moment, who will then introduce our speakers. Each panelist will speak briefly about her career and the challenges and opportunities that she has faced around gender and diversity issues in the industry. Then we'll have a sort of moderated discussion among the panelists, and then the panelists will answer questions from the audience. So we're really happy to have you all here with us today for this event. So let me introduce our moderator for the afternoon, who is Derek Jones. Derek Jones is the station manager of Rowan Radio, 89.7 WGLS-FM, Rowan University's campus radio station. He also teaches a sports broadcasting course at Rowan University. Derek is the play-by-play voice of Princeton University's men's basketball and announces college basketball games for the ESPN family of networks. Thank you so much, Derek. I'm going to turn things over to you as our moderator.
Thank you very much, Melissa. It's an honor to be here today with everyone and excited to have this discussion here this afternoon. First of all, let's introduce you to our panelists. And first of all, thanks once again to the panelists for being a part of this as well. Let's first meet Leslie Gaston-Bird. She is a Dante Level 3 certified audio engineer specializing in 5.1 re-recording and sound editing. She is governor at large for the Audio Engineering Society and author of the book Women in Audio. She is a member of the Recording Academy, the Association of Motion Picture Sound, and Motion Picture Sound Editors. Our next panelist is Adele Fletcher. Adele Fletcher is a dialogue and ADR editor who has done sound editing on such projects as the films Mary, Queen of Scots and No Time to Die, and the television shows Peaky Blinders and Hannah. She has an MA in sound design from the National Film and Television School. Her work has received 2 nominations for sound at the Emmy Awards, as well as an M.P.S.E. nomination. And lastly, Kate Kinninmont is an award-winning TV producer and director. She was CEO of Women in Film and TV in the UK for 11 years and was awarded an MBE by the Queen for her campaigning work for women in the film and TV industry. Kate is founder and MD of the F Word Media Company, where she is developing female-led projects. Thanks to each one of our panelists. And the first question I have for each one of you, and Leslie, we'll start with you. How did you get started in this industry?
Oh, thanks very much, Derek, and it's wonderful to meet everybody and wonderful to meet the students at Rowan. So I got my start I was in the late 1980s. I was a student at Indiana University, and my major was audio technology. At the time, they didn't have a bachelor's degree in technology. So a lot of people don't know this, but my bachelor's is in telecommunications, actually. But I, worked at the campus radio station. So, props to all of us broadcasters out there. So I started as a board operator at the campus radio station. And from there, I applied my skills to a job at National Public Radio. So when I was 22 years old, I moved out to DC and started in radio. And it wasn't until 2002 that I made the transition to post-production sound. And the reason that came about was radio was changing. A lot of programming was becoming automated. And I wanted to work in media, but I didn't really want to work in radio anymore because a lot of people were losing their jobs. So It was a real tough industry to get into, but that's when I made the change. So I've been doing audio for film and television since 2002.
Excellent. Adele, how about for you?
So I started off, I knew I sort of always wanted to do something in film. So I did a degree in film production. And then on like the first project, we had to shoot a film on 16mm, and we had to shoot it non-sync. And, you get put in groups, and like everyone, for one person wanted to be the director, writer, but no one wanted to do the sound. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll give it a go. And then I just basically, sorry, that's my dog in the background, if you can hear that. And then, so basically, I just, as soon as I put headphones on and listened to the world through a microphone, I just knew I wanted to work in sound. I loved it. It was like something went off in my world, basically. And so then I did sort of specialized in sound on my degree. And then I had a really great tutor who said to me, she said, that we need more women in sound. There's hardly any women in sound. And she said, and you can have a job. And I was like, wow, that's great. What a great combination. And so she said, the best thing to do is probably apply to the National Film. Jane, can you sort out the dog? Sorry. Best thing to do is probably apply to the National Film and Television School, but they only took like 6 people a year. And I was like, I'll never get in. But I did, amazingly. And so then that sort of set me off on the professional journey. And then I knocked on a lot of doors once I'd graduated, and just hustled basically in Soho, and met this one guy and asked him for work experience, and he kind of kept fobbing me off. And then after like the 4th time he'd said he was busy and he didn't have time, I said, well, what are you busy doing? And he said, oh, we've got to move studios, and it's a nightmare. We've got this film, and we've got this really high maintenance director, and it's just terrible. And I said, well, I'm not doing anything tomorrow. I can come to your studio and help you pack boxes if you want. I'd love to see your studio. And he was like, really? It's like, yeah, why not? And then 3 days later, I had keys to the building, and I had my first job in the industry, and that was 15 years ago. So that was my break, basically, just being a bit cheeky.
Wow, these are quite the journey, certainly, throughout the entertainment career. But Kate, how about for you?
Kate, you need to unmute.
Oh, sorry.
Kate, can you tell us a little bit about how you got started in the business?
Sure. Well, radio seems to have been a theme with several of us. I started off as a researcher in radio in the early 1980s. And my job was it was like the hardest job I've ever had. I had to find 5 contributors for each of the programs every day, and spent my whole life on the phone collecting people. But from then, it really, really opened up. I became a producer in radio. This was at the BBC. Then an opportunity came up to apply for television. I became a television researcher on a health programme. And next thing, I was directing it. The BBC, the great thing about joining the BBC back in the 1980s was that it was like a job for life. They had chosen you, therefore they had invested in you. And so I was doing like multi-camera training and all sorts of management training and everything. Eventually I left the BBC to go freelance. And that's when things really opened up a lot more, because I was working for different broadcasters. I went to work for Greenpeace, making films for them for a while. And I've actually, as a working class kid from Glasgow, I've been all around the world. I've met amazing people. It would never have happened if I hadn't gone into radio in the first place and then TV. Latterly, I was asked if I'd been always involved in women's organisations, and they needed somebody for women in film to run it as a full-time job. So I did that. At that point, I was in my late 50s, and I really loved trying to do everything I could to support the women in the industry, because the figures for women in all these jobs, I mean, even like in sound, 5% are women. You know, we have got two fabulous top women in sound here, you know, on this event. But, you know, when you look at the overall opportunities for women, you know, work together to make that better. So I spent a lot of time trying to encourage people and mentor people, not just young people, but mid-career people, because often women get to a certain stage, they maybe leave to have children, etc. So, and now I retired from that job and I've just got a development deal with Netflix,
Oh, wow.
which is amazing at the age of 71. I've had so many careers and it's really, really exciting.
That's amazing. Congratulations on that. And you hit on some key concepts there that I want to make sure we address, because we do have some students, obviously, in the audience for today's event. Entry-level jobs in the entertainment field, where do you all see that right now versus when you started your careers? Have things changed for the better or worse? Adele, let's start with you.
I mean, right now at this, you know, in this sort of time we are in, everything is remote. And so I think I've been talking to colleagues and it's a worry that you learn so much just from being in the same room with another person who's been there, done that. And that obviously isn't happening and hasn't happened for the past year, certainly in Britain. So that's a worry. Hopefully that will change. I feel entry level, I mean, the standard route is to become a runner in a post house. That's one route that you can take. But it's changing. You know, when I started, equipment was much more expensive. I couldn't afford to have my own sound editing kit. Now, you know, you can get free versions of Pro Tools and you can start learning that in your bedroom, which is amazing. You know, to be able to have that opportunity is great for you guys. So just you could do that by working on short films. That's an entry level sort of way to start. And it's changed a lot, I think, hopefully for the better. There's definitely more content being made now than when I started. 5 times as much, 10 times as much even. You know, all the streaming channels, they weren't around when I started. God, I'm making myself sound really old, aren't I?
No.
But it's interesting, you know, a lot has changed in the time that I've been working, in 15 years, a lot, and for the better, I think. I don't know what Leslie and Kate think, but yeah, it's good times ahead, hopefully.
Leslie, Kate, how about your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. Yeah, there's sorry, Kate. Yeah, I was going to say something similar is when you know, in the late 80s, the deal was you start as a runner, you start as sort of doing grunt work, getting coffee and donuts for the clients. But today it's much more structured. If you're going to a university and studying media, definitely take advantage of the Career Center, take advantage of the networks that your professors are putting together, and start looking at places like in the States would be foxcareers.com, clearcareers.com, dolbycareers.com. I mean, most of the big entertainment industries have internships, NBC Universal, Saturday Night Live. And so what you have to do is be active. You know, don't be passive and wait for somebody to tell you about something. I mean, you have to do a lot of research and really hit the pavement. And there's stuff out there. I don't think, you know, even in these times, you know, it's right. There are some remote internships as well. I mean, people that I know are trying to set up internships that can be done remotely. So definitely be active. Don't be passive. Don't wait for opportunity to come to you. Get your LinkedIn profile up and running. Get your CV ready. And, you know, start, you know, and follow up regularly. Like every month you set up a calendar event in your personal calendar, you know, and every 4 weeks, you know, that's what you do that day. And you'll get there and start networking and reach out to me if you have questions. You know, and join the Audio Engineering Society because they have a student chapter and really start building your network. So that's my advice.
Well, I agree with both Adele and Leslie. I think, it's very important to get your degree. So that's done. But then you have to see yourself as a business. It's a very freelance world and jobs aren't advertised. There's not a special newspaper you can get where you can look up and apply for jobs. You've got to see yourself as a business. You are very fortunate in the sense that Adele was talking about, that you can make short films, and especially now when you're at university, I'm sure you are able to borrow equipment that would cost a lot of money otherwise, get together with your network at university. You've got to start now. Your network of friends at university may well be your network throughout your life. You would add to it, but that's your core group of people. So if you want to direct or do sound or do camera or whatever, get a group of you together and make your own films. Because at the end of the day, if you want to work in film or TV, you've just got to do it. It's like, if you want to be a writer, you've got to write. If you want to be a filmmaker, you've got to make films. And having said that, picking up on something that my colleagues said too, join things, join organisations. In the UK, we've got the Royal Television Society that takes students. There's directors groups, writers groups. In a way, it doesn't matter what you join, but join something, because freelance is quite an individual, possibly lonely job, and you want to keep creating networks. That's why I was so involved in Women in Film. People need to find out about jobs by talking to other people. And, then there's nobody actually looking out for you. When you're at university, you've got your tutor, you've got other members of staff who might give you advice and so forth. But once you step out after university, it's really down to you. And, if you want to find a mentor, most people are quite happy to have a chat with you over a cup of coffee. Don't stalk them. But, if there's somebody in the sort of job that you would like, contact them through LinkedIn, for example, as Leslie was saying, and it'll get easier for you. But you'd really have to let people know what you're looking for and, create your networks from there.
Kate, you were talking about in the beginning about kind of a little bit about where the state of entertainment is in reference to the involvement of women in the field. For all of you, where do you see the state of things right now? Obviously versus when you first got started, but as we currently stand at the moment, where do you feel representation and diversity is for women right now in entertainment? Kate, you can go ahead and open that one up.
I actually think it's got better. When I joined the BBC, there was a point where I was the only woman who was a mother, who was a producer, because it was hard enough as a woman, but if you also were a mother, then, what are you doing here, sort of thing. Also, there was a complete attitude that women should be the caring people and not the people in charge or the management people. So the first time I went out as a director in the early 80s, the cameraman gathered the crew around him and said, "Now listen, boys, we've got a lady director today, so mind your language." And that would not happen today. It was almost like you were a strange creature who probably had no idea what she was doing, but
Is that good or bad, Kate? I can't figure out. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
But they wouldn't have done it with a guy. Let's put it like that. And but they were being nice. It was just that they weren't used to. It was a blokey thing. Women weren't allowed to apply for any crew jobs. When I was at the BBC in Scotland, there were no women in sound, in post-production sound, or in camera, because they just didn't see that these were the right jobs for women. So all the crew had a crew room, which was a bit like a guy's changing room in a swimming baths or something. It was just very, very, very sexist. And now today, I think things are going absolutely brilliantly. And we've got people like Harvey Weinstein to thank, for example. His treatment of women and his misogyny was so appalling that it really created a big sea change. And suddenly everybody is worried about women. And you'll notice there's a huge difference. For the first time, you know, we've got 2 women directors up nominated for Oscars. You know, that has never, ever happened. Only 1 woman has ever had the director nomination. Everybody is suddenly recognizing a whole lot of things are coming together, like Black Lives Matter. And people do not want to be in the bad person's corner anymore. They actually want to be seen to be doing the right thing. And it's still got a way to go, but it's much better than it was.
Adele, how about you?
Yeah, no, I mostly agree. I don't want to sound too cynical, but I kind of feel like it can't get any worse. You know, like sound especially is still such a boys' game, and I hate to, you know, it feels like there are just loads more men in sound than women, and the women that are in sound are amazing. You know, they're doing such great work, but we just need more women to work in there. I think I'm vice chair of an organization called AMPS, which is the Association of Motion Picture Sound, and we did a recent survey, and I think the number was like 14% of our membership were women, which is obviously not good enough, and we're doing a lot of work to try and change that. Things like Kate said, things are changing, and the awareness is there. We're on the right path. We just need it to go quicker. We just need things to happen, and we need opportunities to change. And it shouldn't just be the women who are making those changes. You know, the change needs to come from all sides. The change needs to come from the people in positions of power, most of them men, perhaps, I hate to say. But the change needs to come from every direction. You know, it needs to come from younger students, female students, even knowing that a job in sound exists, so that they apply to do it. You know, it's a very complicated thing, but it's exciting. You know, I'm really excited to see what the next 10 years will offer. It should be good. Should be good.
Yeah, just to follow what Kate and Adele are saying, it's I think 20 years ago and 30 years ago, we knew that we wanted more women in sound. And when I say we, I mean the industry saw this as a need. But they sort of were passive about it. You know, they thought, well, if we advertise, you know, if we put girls in the magazines, you know, with their hands on the console, that will somehow naturally encourage more women to join. And the numbers went up like this much. And so, you know, people were saying, well, what is the problem? You know, we have, you know, some tokenism on our magazine covers, and it just wasn't enough. And there's so much psychology behind what's going on with girls between the ages of 8 and 18. And that's where you start seeing a lot of advocacy to get girls and women in STEM. There's a recent study, though, that said that the audio industry is worse than STEM as a whole, you know, with our 10%. So that's not encouraging. And but what the things that are happening are that, you know, as we recognize that we have to encourage younger girls to get involved. You see organizations like Women's Audio Mission working with 8 to 14-year-olds, or you'll see Sound Girls doing live sound camps, you know, for younger girls. And that's because, and Girls Rock, you know, there's a Girls Rock camps and things like that. And that's where the pipeline needs to start. And speaking of pipeline, there was another study that talked about a leaky pipeline, where even in a case, this was from a paper called Gendered Classrooms. I can't remember. I have the paper, but I can't like quote the title of the paper. But what it said was between the ages of 8 to 14, about 40% of girls say that they would love to do a music technology degree. That number goes down to something like 18% when girls are 17, and by the time they're ready to enter college, it's down to 10%. So the interest is there at a young age, and then it just nosedives. And so it's one of the statistics that I keep bringing up as, if you go into any social media forums, which I do not recommend. I'm trying to get off social media myself. But if you're brave enough to read the comments, you'll see a lot of guys say, well, women just aren't interested. Why are we forcing women to do audio if they're just not interested? And it's not true. And we have the data. We have data to show that girls are interested, and something is happening to sort of say, well, maybe that's not for me. And that's kind of messed up. So there's a professor here in England who did a study, and she found that there are 70 right now, 70 feminist sound collectives that are working to get women into music tech and into audio and into sound for film. And just the mere fact that there are 70 organizations where women are taking it upon themselves to say, I'm going to start a group, of gear builders. I'm going to start a group of Ableton, push operators, DJs. I'm going to start a group of sound women, which Adele and I are part of. That speaks to our recognition of the fact that more needs to happen. And I agree totally with Adele. It shouldn't just be on us. There's this thing called diversity fatigue where, I'm a Black woman and I'm trying to pull up other Black women and other people of color. It's exhausting, like who is helping me? So it needs to be an industry change. And, on the optimistic side, I do see a lot of diversity initiatives. It's just that we have to go more. And if I may say one more thing, the one phrase that I do not like at all is, we just want the best person for the job. I think if we can get rid of that phrase, we will go a long way, because what happens is people say, well, it's not really about diversity. It's not about inclusion. It's not a man-woman thing. We just want the best people for the job. And then when you see a team of white men, that sends a message to you. It's just like,
Yes.
It just so happens the best people for the job are not women or people of color. That we got to work on that. So thank you.
Very interesting. Adele and Leslie, if you could talk about a little bit more in terms of your actual roles with sound and what you do specifically in that field with your individual jobs. And also, too, on top of that, and Leslie, you were getting into it, where is the disconnect? Do you think it starts at a young age as far as not knowing that these opportunities are available? What do you think there?
I think it's a combination of things. I've talked to several women who said, I didn't figure out I wanted to get into sound until I was 18, 24, 30, 40. Just because they either didn't hear about it, didn't know that there was this specific thing. It's like, some women say, oh, I don't want to work a big console like this. I don't know that. But then they discover that there's this other thing called a record producer where, if you have good ears, you can produce records, or there's acoustics, or there's, you don't have to be operating, lots of faders to be a sound person. So it's just knowing, having talks like this where you talk about like all the tons of career things that you can do. But it's also this concept of gendered spaces. And so if you have a girl between the ages of 8 and 16, and they're going into this mixed classroom, you get a dynamic where the boys are, hey, dude, I've been working on Ableton. It's all I do. I eat, breathe, and sleep Ableton. And I'm going to show you all these cool plugins. And the girls are like, what's a plugin? And so the guys are doing their little clubhouse thing over there. And the girls are thinking, what? Maybe this isn't for me. Where, if you direct them towards a different space, a girls only space or women's only space, it's a lot safer to say, I don't know where to start. I feel, kind of intimidated by this, and to have kind of a sisterhood of people saying, it's okay. I feel like I've got off on a tangent, so I'm going to pass it over to Adele just to pick up the second half of the question, which I forget what it was.
So I think with the first half was it describe my role? Was it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So my role is a supervising dialogue and ADR editor, which is about as niche as you can get. It's niche. My was like, why did you pick such a tiny, anyway, I love it. So my job is to, I am in charge of all the sound that is recorded on location. So if you think about a film shoot and you've got a scene where two people are sitting opposite each other on a table, for example, and they're talking, each character would probably be wearing a radio microphone, and there'd be a microphone in the air pointing as well. And so my job is to listen to all those different microphones, choose the best one, choose how they work together, choose how the sound is edited from one shot to the next, decide if the sound is even good enough to use. If it's not, we can get the actors back in for ADR, which is automatic dialogue recording, where we can re-record the dialogue to picture. And am I oversimplifying it, Leslie? What else do I do?
Yeah, you might take like if somebody has a refrigerator or a fan.
Yeah. So I can edit out. There's amazing plugins. There we are, that I use, where I can pick out different frequencies, which might be irritating to the ear to hear, or like heavy foot thumps on lines. I can take those out, different frequencies. I think my favorite part of the job is the ADR bit, because being a sound editor in itself inherently is quite an isolating job. And I'm quite sociable, and with ADR you get to meet the actors, and that's always really fun. And I feel like in the ADR part of the job, I'm really offering a lot to the film. I feel like I'm a part of the changes of the film, if you like. And I really enjoy that aspect of it. So I work on feature films, TV shows, a whole different thing. Yeah, lots of different shows, really. It's good.
Leslie, take me through a regular day of an audio engineer for you.
Oh, I'd love to. The regular day of audio engineer, depends on which job I'm doing. If I'm in radio, it's different than teaching, which is different than what I'm doing now. I'll tell you what I'm doing now. So I just happened to be in London working on a film today. And so what we're doing is mixing the film. And so we're taking what Adele has done, and now we're adding the music that the composer has done. And then we're also adding the sound effects. So if there's a door slam, or people walking, or a fight scene, for example, and there's debris, clatters, falling everywhere. Those are special effects that we might add to a film. And then we make sure that it sounds good when you put it all together. So a typical day for me is, I turn on the computer, I load the files, and I think one of the skills that is important to learn is file management, right? So knowing where to find that sound effect and where to put it in case you need to move. So I work in Brighton primarily, and Brighton, England is on the south coast. But then I have to bring my hard drive with me to London. I can't leave any files in Brighton. I have to make sure everything I need is on my hard drive when I get here. So just having that mindset of where to find everything. And and then we hand at the end of the day, we'll hand the files off to the director, and they'll marry it with the picture, and we're making movies.
Awesome. And that's the sound engineering, audio engineering is such a key component, and I think underrated component of films and television, that it just doesn't get enough credit. Kate, on your side of things, you wear a lot of different hats as a producer, director, founder of a media company. What is it about you that you've been able to kind of fight through some of the challenges that women face in the industry?
I think it's just persistence, really. With this deal that I've got with Netflix, I found a brilliant young Black Nigerian woman writer who had never written for television. And I thought she was really super. And so I commissioned her to do a piece of writing, which I then sent to broadcasters. And the broadcasters got back and said, Yeah, we can see that she's a great writer. She's very good at the characters and everything. But this is a kind of young adult thing, and we don't have space for that. So I thought, right, I'm going to write back to them and say, that's brilliant that you've thought, that she's a great writer, but it's really hard for me to know what it is you're looking for. How about we have a Zoom and a chat with her? And, they did. And that was just really like, what have I got to lose? And then Netflix had this great chat, and we came up with a different idea, which is the idea that we're now developing for what we hope will be a long-running series. And I think resilience and persistence are absolutely key things, because, you can learn the actual skills of many of the jobs that I've done. You can learn the skills on a training course. And, what Adele and Leslie are doing are very fine-tuned skills, and it would take years to learn that, but you can still learn it. To succeed in this industry, I think you have got to have resilience, persistence. You have got to really want to do it. You have got to work really hard. If you are coming in as a runner, be the best runner. Don't find that you don't know what to do next, so you'll have a look on your social media or anything. Be the best runner. People will notice you, and you'll move up from there. So I think incredible levels of energy and enthusiasm are quite good. Coffee is good for that, I find. But, just on a personal level, I'm a visiting professor at University of Hertfordshire, and I've been doing some work at Winchester University about getting in and getting on in film and TV, and doing one-to-ones with people. And it's really, really interesting how much a lot of the students are lacking in confidence. And I think that gets back to what Leslie and Adele were talking about when it comes to, looking at equipment. What I've noticed is that if a group are making a film, the guys will go straight to the sound and the camera equipment. The women will be organising the coffee, doing the clapperboard, sorting out the budget and doing all that stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the 21st century. What is going on here? And I think it would be terrific to really focus on all of these jobs that they don't quite know about. I think, when you ask people what they would like to do, they usually say writer, director, producer, because they're things that people have heard about or they've read about or they've seen people on the telly talking about it. We need to do more to actually emphasize how many brilliant jobs there are in other areas, like the sound, like visual effects, like games. There are masses of great jobs that, young people coming up would be absolutely perfect for. And so perhaps, it's for all of us to be spreading the word about, if you want to go out there and have a steady job and be learning all the time and be part of storytelling, which is what we're all doing, whether it's radio, television, film, find the place that you want to be, talk to people who are already doing it. And there's nothing to stop you except yourself.
I want to get into some of the Q&A here in a moment. If you have any questions, and it's been filling up throughout, if you have any questions, please make sure you drop those in the Q&A option on your screen. I did want to hit on something that comes up from time to time, and that's support. Where did you all go for support when you started in the field? Because as you kind of alluded to, it's a far, far different situation when you're a woman, or if you're in a situation where you look around and the people you see are not like you. What did you all do for support? Kate, we'll start with you.
Right. For me, I suppose when I started off in the BBC, you already have a sort of support group of your team. But when we moved to London, which was 30 years ago, I didn't really know anybody. And I was then freelance, and I had to think, how am I going to find out what jobs there are I don't know any of these people with these companies. And I joined Women in Film in London. So I joined that 30 years ago. And they would have commissioners come to talk. They'd have individual people coming to talk about the different jobs that they had. And a key thing was networking evenings where people would just go buy themselves a drink and have a chat. And that's how you can find out what's going on. You might meet somebody there who introduces you to somebody else. Now, I know a lot of people think that networking, they will say, oh, I don't want to do networking, as if, it's a kind of disease or something. But actually, all it is being interested in other people and talking to them, finding out about them, and they're doing the same with you. And then you're swapping cards. If people are still going to do them post-COVID, I don't know, but that was always the thing. The other thing is I was very aware of the importance of mentoring. I have mentored a lot of much younger people in my time, but I also started a mid-career mentoring scheme whenever I was running Women in Film, because that's a lonely thing too, coming out as a student, but coming out, say, as a mature student or as somebody who's been having a family and coming back, it's still a bit like coming out of university. So people have to find, you find your support. For me, I would advise people to join things and also to keep in touch with the group that are your friends at university just now.
Adele, how about you? Oh, sorry.
No, I agree. I think, your peers are an amazing support network. I worked in Berlin I was staff at a post house for about 5 years, and then I worked on films in Berlin for a couple of years. And actually it was, it was an amazing opportunity. But I found that actually when I came back to London, I kind of didn't really know that many people. And then I really sort of threw myself into the sound community. And I think I've never got a job from someone I didn't know personally. I think like Kate said, you've got to network, you've got to hustle, you've got to meet people, you've got to be the person that someone can trust you to do the job. And I think it's really important to, especially now with social media, there's Facebook groups and things like that you can join. And they're worldwide. You can do that from your own bedroom. But what? Remind me of the question. I've forgotten. Sorry. What's the question?
Support groups. Where did you go for support?
Actually, Kate, I've got Kate, and I was a mentee on the Women in Film mentoring scheme.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, that was a long time ago, 10 years ago, maybe. I think that was, yeah.
Your face.
Yeah, and now I mentor someone. I mentor someone. It's all about kind of keeping it in the circle and giving back, and things come to you. And you never know what opportunities can come up. You just never know. Yeah.
Leslie, how about you?
Yeah, I was just for fun, I was trying to tie this question into some of the Q&A that I was saying about confidence. And here's the thing about networking. It's part of an ingredient. And Melissa, if you've got your ears on, there's a book by Pamela Laird called Pull, Networking Since Ben Franklin. It's written by Pamela Laird, who was my mentor. And there are ingredients for success. They are networking and mentorship and social capital. And so you need those things. You can't really succeed without those things. Unless you get a job and then you're in the same job for 25 years, etc. But yeah, you need that stuff to advance.
What's social capital, Leslie? Sorry to interrupt. Well, how would you define social capital?
So social capital is, I know you, you know me, I can vouch for you. I can use you for a reference. You're known. You're not, you didn't come from Mars, and if without that connection, without you knowing me, and if somebody says, hey, is Leslie any good, you'd be like, I don't know, so you have no social capital. So what I think a lot of people, especially in university or in college, are intimidated by is this word networking, like Kate was saying, and they think you have to be extroverted to do it. You do not have to be an extrovert to network, and you don't need self-confidence to network. What you are networking right now, you know me, and you can reach out to me, as the students in this forum can reach out to me on LinkedIn or at leslie.gaston-bird@aes.org and ask me stuff, and introduce yourself and get to know me and my work and ask me questions offline. That's networking. And I don't think you need to be particularly brave to do it, but you got to do it. And your classmates, that's a network. The first job you get, that's a network. And so, sort of let's take the fear out of it and do start to join these clubs, and use these things of networking, mentoring, social capital to get yourself moving forward. And it'll become so easy. Like by the time you're my age, I'm 50 something, but you'll become natural at it, and you'll find that you count on these networks, to get work, and especially if you're freelancing. So yeah, and who did I rely on? I relied on my professors at first, and then I relied on my people that I knew through work, and those are the people I relied on to, help me navigate throughout my career.
Thank you very much. Let's hop into the Q&A here, and thank you to everyone for your questions so far. First one we'll take a look at here is from Allegra, who says, what do you all hope to see in terms of gender, race, sexuality representation in the future?
Oh, I don't mind starting with that one. I mean, ideally, we would have, in our industry, we would see the numbers go past 10%, go past 12%. It would be wonderful if, 50% of audio engineers, were women or people of color. And I think that's what we should push towards. We should make sure that this industry is open to all, and be welcoming to all and supportive of all. And I think, the number one thing is to get past the grand idea of diversity, equity, inclusion, and start getting people hired and employed. And that's, I think, where the magic is going to happen.
Kate, how about for you?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the day when people stop referring to people as a lady director or a black camera person, it will be fine, because we'll know that people have actually stopped worrying about that. I think it goes right back to the early days of film, whenever it was run by men in Hollywood, and they just look for people in their own image all the time. And now I think we have increasingly more diverse management in places, and then we will just get greater diversity. But I think right now, places like the British film industry, if somebody wants to get money to help them with their film, they have got to show that they've either got diversity in front of the camera and or behind the camera, plus create jobs, like initial start-off jobs, runners or whatever, for underrepresented people. And they've got to do 2 out of 3 of those, or they won't get money. And at the end of the day, if people want money for a film, they're just going to have to do that. And then people will get a chance. People will recognize that they can do the job as the same as everybody else. They don't all have to be that pale, male and stale middle-aged person. And I think gradually, all these things that are happening in the industry just now really are changing attitudes.
Adele?
Yeah, just to echo what everyone else has said, I think we do need to change. Just talking about sound specifically, the sort of film sound industry, I do think we need to change the idea that it's a technical job. For me personally, I don't see it as a technical job. And Kate, you were talking earlier about, the boys go to the equipment. And there's a phrase that I really love called all the gear and no idea. You know, it's like, it doesn't matter if you've got every toy in the box, every plug-in, and if you know how to automate several things. For me, it's about storytelling, and you know, that's an emotional thing, I think. And so, and women are good at that. Do you know what I mean? Like, so for me, I think that's what we need to be putting out there, and that's how we need to encourage more women into sound in terms of representation. Yeah, it'd just be great that if it wasn't a thing, you know. Like, I went to a meeting the other day for the job I'm on at the moment, and the director was a woman, the producer was a woman, I'm a woman, obviously, and there was one guy, black guy, and he was in the minority of the three women, and we were like, wow, this is amazing, this has never happened before. I've never been in this situation where there's been three women and one black guy working on a film. This is great. And it is great, but it would be great in 10 years if that wasn't such an amazing thing. It should just be the norm. You know, like, that's what I would love to happen. But we just need to nurture young talent. I think that's the younger generation are our future and hope. You people.
Lucy has our next question. Leslie, there was a report you referenced earlier about young women being interested in music technology. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yes, it was called, yes, I can. One moment, please. I have to look on my laptop. Sorry, guys. So it was, you know what? I think it's on a different computer. Basically, if you look up Georgina Bourne was the name of the author. And she did a very lengthy report on music technology classroom dynamics in Britain. And it's, trust me, I mean, I've taught at University of Colorado, Denver for 13 years. It's practically the same. It's just about the same in both countries. And yeah, I mean, without relying too much on my memory, just look up Georgina Bourne and gender and music technology. Just Google it and you'll find it. And it's very illuminating about the leaky pipeline and about the fact that for some reason a room with computers in it is a male space. It's an interesting concept. and one that, you know, she's saying we have to work to overcome.
If you think about like NASA, you know, that what was that great film? It was all the women who were the programmers, you know, and but then the men.
Yeah.
What was it called?
Hidden Figures.
Hidden Figures. I mean, you know, like, and then where's this idea come from? That it's only the men who are the technical people. No, it wasn't like that. You know,
the ideas come from the men, possibly.
Well, how much, kind of following up on that, how much do you think media plays a role in how the youth is impacted in terms of those things? Because that thought process starts somewhere. Do you think the media plays a role in how it's presented?
Yeah.
Well, Gina Davis has done a lot of research on that with her Gender Institute. Whenever, you know, famous Oscar-winning actress, and when she had a small daughter, she watched films and TV with her and couldn't believe so many programs and stories were being told where the women were just the mum at home. You know, it's like the old Janet and John books, and the women were never doing anything interesting. And she thought, I wonder what the stats are on this, and discovered nobody had done them. And she has really been working very, very hard and has now managed to get children's television in the US much more on board with this. So they've got boys doing interesting things and girls also doing interesting things. We find it here, you know, in the UK, there's a series called Silent Witness about a woman who works in forensics. And after that show was going out, there were more women applying to do forensics at university because they just suddenly thought, oh, here's a thing. I think we should have a series about people doing ADR. Two women, right? Black woman, white woman. They're dubbing mixers, they're doing all of that. It's really glamorous. They're very exciting. Get that series out there. Netflix, Amazon, one of them should do it.
Yeah, I'm up for it.
Right.
So, me three.
Let's go to our next question here from Caitlin. When you take a look at students, Caitlin wants to know, what should I be doing to set myself up for getting into a career in the creative industry? When do I start applying for things, and what kinds of things should I be applying for, and where do I begin?
I need to flip that round. Like, I want to know, that's quite a broad question, but I want to know, like, what do you want to do? Like, where you need to sort of hone it down, I think. Like, what area? Creative industry is a massive thing. It's so many different things. Like, what excites you? What, do you love going to cinema? Do you love reading books? Do you love listening to podcasts? Like, I would start thinking of those things and maybe asking myself what area that would go into. I mean, I didn't start applying for things until I'd graduated, but I don't know, maybe that's changed now. I don't know. What was the last bit? Where do I begin? Yeah, I think you need to begin with trying to decide what you want to do, which is probably you're probably screaming at me now, going, I don't know. But yeah, it's hard, isn't it? I think I was quite lucky in that I knew what I wanted to do. I think that's half the battle, potentially. Not Leslie, you're both nodding, so maybe that is the battle. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think
being able to narrow it down is important. And, I listed a couple of places earlier where it's Fox Careers and Dolby Careers and, all these job websites that are specific to a media company. So if you like Netflix, check out the Netflix job board. Or if you like action movies, look at Disney internships, for the next Marvel universe, whatever is going to come out.
I think it would be great to get experience as a runner so that you can, from the inside, you can see what everybody does because you're there, you're observing them. And maybe, in your, I don't know what stage Caitlin is at, but in your summer break, if you have such a thing, even to get a running job for a couple of weeks, if you could somehow get that, just to get an idea, because it might be quite different from what you imagine. And I don't know how universal it is, but in the UK, there are quite a lot of freelance groups for runners. It's like My First Job in Film or Runners UK or whatever. I think if you get onto social media and put in, jobs in film or whatever, you get these websites where people will suddenly be saying, oh, we need a couple of runners for next week, because it's usually quite last minute. Even if you were a film for a weekend or something, you'd get a clue.
I think a lot of, for me personally anyway, a lot of my luck has just been, and it's such a cliche, but it's like I was in the right place at the right time. Do you know what I mean? And I was in a lot of places. So I kind of spread myself around a lot so that hopefully one of those places would stick. And one of those times I would get asked to do something, and I did.
I think it's never too early to start thinking about it. And if you have got a feeling that you would like to write, or you would like to do sound or something, do think about getting together with other people and trying to create something together. Because then, first of all, you'll understand the discipline behind what you're trying to do, but also you've got something to show. You've got something that you can let people see. You can't be an artist without a portfolio of work. And it's a very competitive industry, because it's one of the best things in the world to work in. It's very competitive. So it's great if you can make yourself special and unique by making your own stuff.
Hi, everyone. Melissa Clapper here. I'm just calling it, just drawing everyone's attention to the fact that we probably only have time for maybe one more question, and then we'll need to wrap things up.
Okay, thank you very much, Melissa. Well, let's see here. Let's see what we can go with here as a final question. There's so many that are out here. Let's go with this one. for students, how can they how can they push forward in the industry? There's questions about confidence, things of that nature. Where did you all find the confidence to keep going? Because you all came along at different periods in this industry. Where did you find the confidence to keep going?
Given up many times. Yeah, I've had some terrible, I'm still learning. 15 years and I'm still learning. I have terrible days. I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? I think it's such a roller coaster of the business. It's not all rosy. And I think confidence comes from experience. It comes from, I finished a job last week and I sent the clients, the director and the producers an email because I had a great time on the job. It was a comedy. And I said, I haven't laughed whilst editing for a long time. And so I just sent them a little email to say thanks for the lovely experience. And they all replied saying, thanks, you're amazing. And I was like, oh, well, that feels nice. That boosted my confidence. So I think you've just got to take moments where you can get them and just be and trust in your own skills. I think, it's practice. What's that 10,000 hours thing? I've probably done about 50,000 by now. It's honing your craft and knowing what you want to do. That's where I get my confidence from anyway.
Yeah,
I think there's a phrase that I like, and it's I'm not talented enough to be unprepared. And always thinking about ideas, because a lot of the programs that I've made, I've come up with an idea or I've researched it myself. And I think, if you're going to be working in television, even if people don't want to make your ideas, it lets them see that you're thinking about stories, whether it's drama or documentary. And, for me, I go and get involved in a charity or something. You need to be doing something where you are working with people, because you need to keep your people skills going, and that's something that we've all found during the lockdowns in the last year. Our lives are so different, but once we can all escape and get back out, being with people, finding out about people, finding stories, because that is ultimately all that we're doing, is creating stories. So you can do that all the time, everywhere.
Yeah, I think confidence comes from passion. If you're passionate about it, you love doing it, and you practice. I'm a pretty confident pianist. I used to be a very confident pianist. I'm a more confident audio engineer now because I don't practice piano as much as I used to. So yeah, if you're passionate about it and you practice it, that should build your confidence. And then, but that's different than public speaking, and that's different than, the introvert extrovert, can I network and meet people. So make sure you're delineating confidence in yourself and belief in your talent, and delineating that with shyness or intimidation. They're not the same.
Real quick, Melissa, I just have one teeny tiny question, and then we'll wrap it up. In a sentence from each one of you, where do you see the industry for women and underrepresented groups as a whole 5 years from now?
Can I start because I'm the oldest?
Sure.
I really do think that it's changing rapidly. I mean, whether you're watching TV in the States or in the UK, if you're watching any of the streamers, you will find a huge diversity. You'll find women starring in things where before it would have been, they'd have been the sort of support act. You'll find people of colour, all different ethnicities. You now see more people, actors in dramas, in wheelchairs, where the fact that they're in a wheelchair has got nothing to do with anything. It's just incidental. And I think that the streamers are really changing things, because it's always been harder for the old studios and the BBCs and all these entrenched organisations. The streamers are coming in, they're looking for ideas, they've got the money, they're looking for talent. They will change what we see on the screen, and that will change what we see behind the camera too.
Adele?
In 5 years' time, I'm hoping that we will be a minimum of 50-50 crews in terms of gender divide. I'm hoping that I just want more. I just want more people of color, more women, more, more to say lots. I just need everything to just grow, basically. That's where I see it in 5 years' time, or where I hope. But it's changing, and like Kate said, it is changing fast. I think it's kind of going like this, and I'm hoping we just carry on going upwards.
Leslie, how about you?
Where do I see it going? I see it getting better, and it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take everybody keeping hopeful, staying hopeful, and not getting apathetic. Never stand for the status quo, and me and Kate and Adele are out here trying to break the ceilings for you guys. So be ready to walk through them. So get your CV and reel together.
Thank you very much to all three of you. This was a great discussion, very enlightening discussion, and hopefully the audience out there learned a lot about the business and the industry and where it's going.
I just want to add my thanks. Thank you so much to our panelists, to Leslie and to Kate and to Adele. Thanks to our moderator, Derek. I just want I also would like to thank actually the committee, which I should have done earlier, and I apologize for that, but to my colleagues, Professors Barbara Adams, Colleen Montgomery, and Kim McCass, thank you so much for helping put this together. It could not have happened without you. And a final round of thank you to our sponsors, the Women's and Gender Studies Program, the Department of Music, the Department of Radio, Television, Film, the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, the College of Performing Arts, and the Rick Edelman College of Communication and Creative Arts. Thanks to all of you, and especially thanks to everybody who came to the program, and especially to the students who asked such wonderful questions. We really appreciate everybody's time and attention to these important issues, and we hope you had a great time. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone. This was wonderful.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
I've been moved to tears yet again. I mean, it's just such a wonderful panel. Can we have a part 2?
Sure. I thought you were going to say, can we have a drink?
That would be better.
Yeah. That was wonderful.
It's amazing that you guys all came together, and the power of being able to do this virtually, first of all, because I can't imagine we'd be able to bring you here to South Jersey to do this in person. But I would love to do this again, and in the future. I know I can speak for myself, working in the music industry department, more on the music side. Just bringing up organizations like Sound Girls, bringing up Women in Audio Mission, and having guest speakers like you is really influential to our students, and being able to see that people are making careers in this. So thank you so much.
Let me know if I can ever help again. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was lovely.
Thank you so much for your generosity. And yes, I might reach out to you in the future because I teach a class on film sound, and I would love to have you as guest speakers. Yeah.
I'd love to see you.
See you, everybody. Thank you.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.